Yes, we're here. Hello and welcome to a new edition of City Talks. I hope you're doing great, and I hope you didn't miss us over the last few months. I think our last City Talks was in June, just before the summer break had hit us. So we took also a few months off. I hope you did too as well. After months and months of lockdown, we finally could enjoy the freedom and go out there and enjoy the nice weather. Unfortunately, there are some cities in our network that have still been in lockdown, so we do still wish everyone the best over there, and I hope you are still healthy out there and staying strong in these difficult times, as we all in. But we felt like to bring back a new City Talks edition, because there was a lot of excitement and enthusiasm around it. So we felt like bringing back this amazing theme. Before I'm going to introduce you to our great lineup of speakers, I'm going to first give you a short introduction of whom we are and what we're all about, with some exciting new announcements. So definitely stay tuned. And then we're going to kick off this beautiful live Q&A. So a City Made by People is a network that is really here to celebrate cities and also like livability in cities throughout the years. Me personally, I'm the founder of A City Made by People, and in the last 6 years, I've been working hard on connecting with different citizens around the world, and we're all about really citizens and creating better cities of where we live in. That's also our main mission, is that we really want to facilitate these meaningful connections so citizens feel empowered, and also really to not only empower themselves but also the people that are part of in the community, to really build thriving cities. And that all these three elements of social connection, empowered citizens, and thriving city is also something that we see fit being our main vision, is to really build citizens from the heart, and making sure that all these facets come into place in the middle. And we're super thankful that it's not just us that have get excited about cities and want to share our love for cities and work on creating better cities. We've also found like-minded citizens in other cities around the world, such as in Bucharest, Chicago, Copenhagen, Hong Kong, Lisbon, Madrid, Melbourne, Seattle, and Vienna. In all these cities, we have teams of writers, creatives, get-goers, people that like to host events, and it's amazing and heartwarming to have them on board to support the cause. If you're listening and you're from a city that's not listening here, we're always happy to hear from you, and more than happy to get in touch with you and talk about collaborating. And most of you have known us, through like our print magazine, or our online stories, or even these City Talks. But the people that we really want to attract, and I think you're watching are part of that same community, is something we call a city enthusiast. And how we define a city enthusiast are people that love to learn. You love inspiring stories and want to learn more about creative people, cities, initiatives. But you also like to connect with others. You're looking for like-minded people to connect with who share the same values and aspirations. But you also like to roll up your sleeves and do something about projects in your city. You want to live more consciously, and you want to help make your city a better place. But sometimes you just don't know where to start. And that's something that we really want to help you with. And lastly, which is something that we should not be forgotten, one of the biggest values as well is celebrating. Is like you like to celebrate what's great in your city, and not only focus on what's wrong. And I think within everything we've done in the past, from projects and a print journal to online content to even these City Talks, we've really served these kind of pillars. But we also felt that something was missing, something that we could offer our citizens as a service as well, to have all these, everything that we do aligned and more packaged up into an experience. So as of, to be launched in the coming weeks, we're going to launch a membership platform where things like stories, weekly stories, monthly city talks. We're even going to launch an episode series as a how-to guide hosted by city change makers to really teach you the right skills to make a change, and form it also into a community which we can then give you access to really connect different citizens around the world with each other. This all-in-all membership platform will be launched in the coming weeks, and we really want to encourage you to join us. And therefore, we also would like to invite you to join a waiting list that we have installed here. The waiting list, you can fill in your details on a citymadebypeople.com/experience. Let me also just share this in the comment box so everybody can really click the link immediately. It would be amazing if you could do it on the spot. So there you go. You can just click, whether you're watching via Facebook, YouTube, or on our website. Below in the comment box, this is where you can find the link. If you could click on it and take 1 minute to fill it in, that would be amazing. So the moment you join this waiting list, you'll be the first one to get notified about the launch of this amazing membership platform. And most importantly, every month we'll have a theme as of now. So every month we'll launch a theme, and all the stories, talks, how-to guides will be in favor of that particular theme that month. So over time, we'll create an archive of amazing content and a lot of knowledge that hopefully makes you feel even more empowered to create a better city all around. So I hope you filled in the form. I'll get back to that later on when we finish off this talk, but we're not here only about us. Again, we're here to connect people. So we're super proud to be launching this City Talks and talk about belonging, on how to feel at home in your city. We've invited 4 amazing citizens with different backgrounds from different places, and it's time to get them up on stage and to invite them over to have a conversation with us about what they think belonging is and how what their experience are. So first up, I would love to invite to the floor is Stefan. Hey, Stefan.
Hi, guys.
Love your backdrop.
Hi, Robin. Thank you. It's my fake Amsterdam photo while I'm in Amsterdam. So, 2 for 1.
Amazing. Well, welcome to the talk. Happy to have you. And please introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. So my name is Stefan Paskalidis. I'm originally from Cyprus. And for those of you who don't know, it's a very small island in the Eastern Mediterranean. And then I moved to the United States for college and ended up staying there for pretty much the rest of my life. Except 3 years ago, I decided that it would be also interesting to experience other cultures in other cities. So I sold everything in New York City and then became a digital nomad, living around the world for the last 3 years. For work, I work in the experiential space. I develop team building immersions, which means that we get people to think about team building from different angles. So, for example, how can you get inspired about building a better team by the army, talking about discipline, or by improv comedy, talking about creativity, or by bouldering, sort of this idea of competing with other people, but also very detail oriented, thinking about structure. So it's a really interesting way to think about team building while also interacting with amazing people who do super interesting things that can teach us a lot about how to be a better team. So once I started my global journey, my first stop was Lisbon in Portugal, 3 months there. I wanted to put the photo there. The first photo is our little house party. After 3 weeks of being in Lisbon, we had all these amazing people who I just, met in 3 weeks in Lisbon. So it is pretty easy if you make it happen. You can meet a lot of people in a specific city And then the photos below is people who came to visit me from places like New York and France and Sweden and Australia, and sort of made Lisbon feel more like a home. So that was a pretty amazing experience for me.
Wow. Great.
Yeah,
Lisbon. That's a place I want to go.
I would recommend it.
And I have one more picture here. These are the places you lived.
Oh, this is something that this is my favorite pose. When I feel content and I'm happy, it doesn't matter where I am in the world. That's my pose. And it doesn't, it's just, it feels like I'm home, right? So it's my physical manifestation of where I feel comfortable. And it could be cultures and places that have nothing to do with my experience or my background. And so that's my way to show that I'm super excited to be there.
We can make that maybe a final shot for the live stream.
Go for it.
Thanks, Stefan. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Sure.
Sorry for them. Let's make sure that we not mute ourselves, please, everyone. And I'll continue to the second speaker that we have invited. Talk to you in a bit.
Yeah.
Cheers. And then the second is Aisha. There, Aisha Puperengi. Hello, Aisha. How are you?
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Good.
It was wonderful to have you.
Yes.
So you work at Welcome app, which is a great app that helps newcomers to onboard in a country or a city, right?
Yes, to build a life in the Netherlands. So I came from Somalia 12 years ago, and usually if you come to a country, you have to build your life there. And what you need is to have a network, to build yourself, and it is harder for refugees to do that because you have language barriers, you have a lot of issues that you also left. So I have been working with Welcome App for 2 years, and the mission is to feel people and to make them feel at home in the new country. And the idea came from my colleagues who thought maybe connecting people is the best way to give that kind of a way to feel at home.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we on a regular basis do, right? Is like organize also events.
Exactly. So the application is like a digital bazaar. So you can find all local and organizations, but also activities, everything that is organized in your city, you can find there as a newcomer. And what important for us is to approach not only organizations but also companies. And so I've shared a few pictures of companies who invited a lot of newcomers to their offices and had lunch with them, chat with them. From there, and you can build a network. So you can meet new people. And this is Agen, and they organized a boat tour for families, refugee families who live in Amsterdam. That way, people feel happy and also part of society. So being a refugee is already like an issue, and you already think and like I have to build a life here. You don't understand the language, and to feel and to see that companies and open their doors, organizations, and welcome people, that is kind of sense of belonging to a new country. So that is very important for us. And for my experience when I came, was the hardest was how to find initiatives, how to find people that can help you with like questions. And you can search everything online, but that human contact is the best way to get further. So
and what kind of different, all kinds of nationalities and backgrounds are coming your way?
So mainly we have refugees coming from Syria and from Eritrea, from Yemen. So there are different groups that are coming in the Netherlands. And usually some people speak English. Sometimes they have like issues with Dutch language. So we connect them to also language classes. And maybe sometimes like language cafes where just Dutch people try to help them with Dutch language. And last year we organized a big event. So if you can see the picture, we brought 100 newcomers and 100 locals to commemorate the 4th of in May. So to remember the people who died in Second World War. And that way all the newcomers felt part of the society, part of the culture, and part of also festivities and everything. So that was a really amazing experience for everyone, and that's what we try to do, so that people can find their way in their new home and give them a sense of belonging.
Yeah. Well, love your project. Love the project. And also good to hear your personal experience, not only yourself, but also of the people that you meet on a daily basis. For sure.
Yes.
Great. Thanks, Aisha. I'll get back to you also in a second. And I would love to move on to a Portuguese lady, Raquel. Hello.
Hi, Robin. Thank you for the invitation and for having me.
Absolutely. My pleasure. My pleasure. Please introduce yourself and tell us, what you do and who you are.
So I am originally from Portugal, and I've spent a big portion of my life, not yet half, but almost half of my life there. And I decided after finishing my university studies, I wanted to basically experience different cultures and wanted to broaden my horizons. So I went on and moved to Germany to do my PhD studies, and then I spent there for 5 years. After that, I wanted to move to a different city as well, and so I moved to France. I stayed there in Strasbourg for 6 years, and finally I found my place where I believe that I feel more at home, which is in Amsterdam, where I've been living for the past 3.5 years. So that's a short recap on my traveling.
Alles goed? How's the Dutch going?
The Dutch is going slow but steady. Alles goed.
Alles goed. Very nice. Well, it's great to have you, Raquel. And
Thank
also
you.
Looking forward to hear your experience in a second.
Yeah.
And then we'll move on to the last panelist of the evening, and that's Luca. Hello, Luca.
Hi, everyone. Thanks a lot for Robin for inviting me here tonight.
Yes. So you're a Frenchman, and you ended up in Bucharest.
Yeah, more or less. So I'm French from my mother, Croatian from my father. Grew up mostly in France. Moved to the UK because, as most of people living in France, our level of English is quite bad when we graduate. When we leave high school. So I moved to London, work in a pub, as every French people moving there when you're 18. Ended up working for a marketing agency, then came back to France, then moved to Germany, then Estonia, then went back to Germany, and I got an opportunity to go to Romania for a 6-month internship, and I was like, oh, let's just go to this region. I haven't visited Southeastern Europe. Let's just spend 6 months there. Let's see how the internship is going to be, but just enjoy the region. And it seems that I'm stuck here since 4.5 years. So
stuck.
Yeah, that was fun. So still in Bucharest.
Nice. Good. Well, happy to have you. And you also, shared some visuals with us.
Yeah. So that first picture is about, let's say, my first project, which made me feel home here, that I created with my flatmates. Basically, were also Frenchmen living in Bucharest. So we realized that people from Bucharest were complaining a lot about their city, that many Romanians were moving abroad because they didn't like, the place where they were living. But we quickly realized that many people didn't know the city in which they were living. And that sometimes I felt like I knew Bucharest much more than local people.
Yeah.
So we started this initiative, which was about promoting events, places in Bucharest, and we had a newsletter with events. And
Great.
And at some point, we decided to organize our own events. And we came up with, so this picture is from one of our biggest events where we had between 5,000 to 7,000 people coming on a Sunday afternoon to get some drinks, food, and so on. So that's basically how, when I started really feeling home.
Is that a mix between international and locals as well?
Mostly locals, I would say.
Okay.
Probably 90% of the audience were locals.
Okay. Wow. Amazing.
And then I think one of the reasons why I stay in Eastern Europe is brutalist architecture. I'm just a fan of it. I'm not working in the field at all. I just like to take my camera and travel around and find those spots which belong to history, but then people tend to neglect because they are associated with communism, while it's just like an architectural movement, which also happened in the West. So yeah, that's what I do in my free time. I just go around, take some pictures of brutalist stuff. And so yeah, this is a craft beer. So I basically, since a year now, I joined a craft beer brewery here. So the craft beer movement is growing in Romania, as it is everywhere else, I guess. And yeah, I joined this craft beer brewery a year ago and work with them to like promote the brand, make it grow, basically work on the marketing communication side as well. With Adriana, who also invited me, that worked for City Made by People.
Yeah, nice. Makes me already thirsty here.
When you come to Paris, you get some.
Okay, good.
And on the left is, let's say, the coffee side of the job. So I'm a big coffee fan, and I write some articles from time to time about the coffee industry in Europe. And I also created what you see in the middle of the picture, which is the Bucharest coffee map. So with a friend, we created since 3 years now. We are very late at 2020, but it's gonna happen, I hope. So coffee maps promoting all the coffee shops, not the Dutch definition, but the worldwide definition of a coffee shop where you drink coffee in Bucharest. So there is an amazing coffee scene in Bucharest, and it goes also with what I said before, that people from Bucharest will also know the good things that happen in their city. And drinking specialty coffee is one of the great things you can do in Bucharest. So that's why we created the Bucharest Coffee Week, the Bucharest Coffee Map, and a coffee agenda. And on the right, I will try to be short. So that's the national symbol of France, but it's also the logo of the French tech. So I think there is one in Amsterdam as well. So it's basically a movement created by the French state to create bridges between France and other countries to promote the tech startup ecosystem. So basically, I'm board member of the French Tech in Bucharest. So taking part in helping Romanian startups looking for VC funds or willing to enter the French market. So it's a way to help them go to the French market, and it goes also the reverse way by helping French companies, French startups which want to make business in Romania. So
wow,
yeah.
I think you found your way as well, right? You found your way in Bucharest.
Very active, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, great, amazing to have you on board as well.
Thanks.
I'm going to call in all the others as well again. Stefan, Raquel, Aisha, and then we're going to have this conversation about belonging and how to feel home in your city. I think a lot of answers already been given, but I think it's nice during this Q&A to really readdress them. So I really want to, there's also a lot of questions already from the audience, which is amazing, but I'm going to save them for later. So I'll find a better moment to share them with you, so we can get more in detail on specific questions. So Aisha, I think you touched upon already, but what does belonging mean to you?
Yeah, for me personally, it's also ability to do what you want, to have that kind of freedom, and also to know your environment where you live in. So if it's like as shallow as like finding the best coffee in your city, so it's knowing everything in your city and having that freedom to do whatever you want. That's for me, and it's also personal for everyone. So I think that is what it means for me.
So freedom.
Yeah.
So also knowledge gives you freedom then.
Exactly. Information is also gives you, yeah, I think information is also important. Knowing everything, knowing your environment is also, yeah, like creates a sense of belonging.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, Stefan, for you as a digital nomad, I mean, you might be in places only for weeks or maybe 6 months. How does what does belonging mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting concept because I think this is something that a lot of people are talking about today from all kinds of angles in terms of working with a specific team, or being an immigrant in another country, or even being part of a country and feeling that you don't really belong there, and questioning that. So for me, it's been interesting to sort of try to identify what belonging means for me personally. And I found that it's all about people. It's about the community. When I moved to a city for 3 months, and like I said, in Lisbon, within 2 weeks, I had a community of people who I could have over, and every day I had plans. To me, I felt like I was already home. I can be somewhere for a week, meet a few people, go to a few events, and then feel like, hey, this is a place I could consider moving to in the future as well. So I always try to find opportunities to meet people through things like Meetup or doing various events. Like I do improv comedy, so it's fun to do that in different cities. And then, one person, two people meet two, three, four people, and then I feel like, hey, I'm already part of this community, whether I'm there for a week or 3 months. So for me, it's all about the people.
Good. And leaving is not a problem then?
Leaving is a huge problem, Robin, because, for example, in places like Lisbon, where I keep bringing Lisbon up, I don't know. I mean, 3 years I lived in a lot of places, but I think that was the first city, and it was so special to be like, I'm a nomad now. But that's an example of like meeting all these amazing people, having a community, and knowing that you're gonna, leave this city. And might not come back to live there. You might come back to travel. So I also learned to think of these experiences as amazing experiences that are super special, but that I shouldn't rely on them as something that is take for granted, right? And then you always will meet people in different parts of your life, in different cities. The world is very small. So instead of just kind of being like sad that I'm going to leave people behind, I'm excited that I'm going to meet more people. And then hopefully my paths will cross with the people I met in every city. And it's actually been happening. I mean, it's just amazing. Like I'm in Amsterdam right now, and okay, there's a pandemic going on, but this is a city where a lot of people end up passing through. So I already know that a lot of the people I met, especially in Europe, will come here and meet up in their lives.
Yeah, right. What about you, Raquel?
Well, I think it's a bit of what Aisha said and Stefan, but I think most of it belonging comes only from accepting. So it's that you feel that you are accepted in your totality. So when you reach that, then you belong. So it's a bit what Aisha said, that you have the freedom to be yourself. And also it comes with finding your, what I usually call a tribe. So it's kind of the people that you consider your people. So the people that bring you a sense of home. But apart from that, I think because those may take some time to find, depending on your personality, or so if you are more introvert or not. And that may take time to find. But for me, every time I moved, there is things that I bring with me. It's very small things that are my things, and I recognize them, and they bring me the roots from Portugal. There is things coming from Heidelberg in Germany. There are things coming from Strasbourg. So not only physical things, but also, you kind of meet people, and the local people, and you bring some kind of you change culturally as well. So for example, to give you an example, in Christmas time, it's not common in Portugal to have gingerbread, the cookies. but I love them so much, and I learned them from Germany, so I always cook them for my family. So it's a little bit of Germany that comes to Christmas in Portugal. So it's I think it's but when you are in a city, you have to find your people, in that people can be from your nationality also, but also from different nationalities, and and also what you bring with you is also making you feel like you belong.
It's interesting that you talk about bringing something, as well, instead of just taking, but bringing something to a city as well. That's nice. What about for you, Luca? I mean, of course, completely different cultures, different ways of working. I know Bucharest has been called like little Paris, but still, what makes you feel like belong in Bucharest, for example?
So there are various reasons. So of course, the ones everyone mentioned, I agree with them. I think that's something we can rely on. I would add a couple of details. The first one being that sometimes when you say something, a Romanian will tell me, "Oh, you start thinking like a Romanian," and then you think about it like, "Oh, that's actually true," and you're like, "Okay, I'm part of it," There's also when you use some words in Romanian and you don't know how to use them in any other languages. You're like, how come I know this word in only this specific language and I don't know it in my mother tongue or in English or whatever reasons? And the other big reason, I think, is when you start creating an impact in the community and you see it working and you see people knowing you for that. Like, we create those events which have a specific purpose for the community. And then, you go somewhere and people come like, "Oh, are you the guy who does this?" And then you feel you really belong to the place because you feel like you brought added value to the place. Which I think belonging is a bit different to like definition of feeling home. Because I have the feeling like I feel home pretty much everywhere I go on vacation. But I think belonging is something a bit different. Or, when you go to a restaurant in a random area where you're not supposed to know anybody, and you just meet someone that you know there. And then you start discussing about like how to shape the future together, what we can do together. Then you really feel you belong to the community.
Mm-hmm. So it's about adding value to your community. That also really makes you connect with people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it already partially answers the question that Sarah is picturing here. Well, what's that for you, Aisha, for example, when it comes to Amsterdam?
Sorry?
So what had it been for you in Amsterdam, for example, that connection?
Yeah, I think having friends, for instance, or community around you is the most important thing. So I think I live outside Amsterdam, so in Zaandam. But I do most of things. So I work there, and I usually go with my friends to Amsterdam. So I feel more belonging to Amsterdam than where I live. And because it is kind of a place that is more social and more things happen in the city in Amsterdam.
Yeah. So that's what it makes it more lively, for example.
Yeah, exactly. And also having friends there and knowing all the exciting places in Amsterdam, that makes it more home for me.
And then every one of you, like you all, like very, I think, outgoing people as well. As in, I don't know you personally that well, but like how do you really start to connect with people? I mean, Stefan, for example, do you have a sort of rhythm? Do you have an approach every time you visit a particular city?
I think it might be a special case. I'm like the social butterfly. I'm also from the Mediterranean. It's for us, our culture is all about people. So, my friends are like, as soon as you show up somewhere, you'll know everyone in the room. And I think that's kind of like my personality. So I actually really love visiting places where people are the opposite of me. So if I go to a place like Italy or Spain or Greece, I'm like, yeah, okay, I get this culture. But if I go to places like Iceland or Norway or even Portugal, people are just a little more introverted, a bit shy. And that's when I get so excited. And I'm just like, I want to get you out of your shell. And I actually find that it's, people are fascinated by different cultures, different personalities. And I think once people see that you're curious about their culture and that you're really interested in them as people and you ask a lot of questions, they're opening up, right? I had Norwegians who couldn't stop talking, and then, that's definitely not part of their culture. But I think it's because people just love connections, and people love other human beings who want to spend time with them. Our brains kind of sync, and we enjoy that time together. So for me, it's all about making that first connection, finding interesting questions to ask people, relating, even with the people you disagree on politics and everything else. You can find ways to relate as human beings. And I think it's amazing to kind of see where those connections can take you.
And for someone who's not that outgoing, it's more of a struggle than, you're like a social butterfly, but others are, having a harder time to probably onboard or land somewhere.
I could not speak to that.
Maybe I can speak a little bit to that.
The Portuguese to the rescue, yes.
Yeah, so I consider an introvert. So for me, I am absolutely not a social butterfly at all. And so meeting people is I love meeting people, but it really takes the energy from me instead of being energized from it. So my approach was, I was very lucky when I moved to Germany, because I moved to a program, and it was filled with the international people. So we all entered like 60 people at the same time. We were all in the same conditions, away from home, so that facilitates a lot the interactions. But once you move from that environment, when I moved to France, then it was a bit more complicated to make connections with people. So I used different platforms of expats that to meet up and things like this. And apart from that, I use my hobbies as a way to meet not only expats, but also people that are from the country. So so basically that's how I connect with others and how I find other people. So either using sports or hobbies. I do sewing classes, so I meet other Dutch ladies and while sewing. It's always nice, and it's so I think in general you just have to either use the platforms that there are available. There are numerous Facebook groups, or there is other apps that are specifically for meeting expat people, and then I always think that through hobbies or sports, collective sports, or even classes or so, dancing or any kind of hobbies that you like, I think it's always a good way to meet new people.
So you really have to put in your skills, and your talents.
Well, I think it's just even if you don't know, just sign up for something. That's my approach. I always wanted to learn how to sew, so I just sign up for it. And if you want to learn how to, I don't know, pottery or something like that, just sign up for it, for a workshop, and maybe
so it took a new city to learn something new.
So yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Amsterdam brought me boxing and sewing classes.
Nice. That's a way to put it.
Yeah.
And then Luca, you use your creativity, right, to connect with others.
I'm too outgoing. I'm always dynamic, and everyone around me sometimes they're like, "Can we take a break?" I'm like, "No. There is this." I'm always chasing events, exhibitions.
So this live stream is also,
And it definitely helps you connect because, also because of some of the stuff I've done. Usually when I go to a place, I introduce myself just because we might do some stuff together in the future,
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also nice for them to know, who is coming to the shop and eventually find out if there are opportunities we can build on. So
nice.
I usually don't hesitate to knock a door, say, "Oh, you opened yesterday. Hi, I want to try your products. I do this, and that. See you soon."
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the connection happens, sometimes less, but it's that's usually how I do. So I tend to connect a lot, sometimes too much, because sometimes I have the feeling I would like to be in a coffee shop, not knowing anyone and just read a book. But it happens very rarely, at least here.
You need to stay at home then for that.
Exactly.
Okay. And Aisha, your experiences? Next to, of course, the welcome app being one of the tools.
Yeah, I think and I'm not that outgoing, so I also see in myself and also in the people we meet through Welcome App that it's sometimes harder. So interest is the best way to connect. So if you like cooking or something, you have to like sign up and meet people through that interest. And I think sometimes there are also cultural things we see in the Welcome App. And so some people from other cultures are not used to being in a group or in a community, so it's harder for them and to just join a club or a sport group and have a community. So they start with having one person they talk to, for instance, that lives in the same neighborhood. So that's how it works for people who are not that outgoing, to have that kind of one person who you go to. And so for me also it's the same. I'm not that outgoing, so I experienced it also.
Have you made friendships through the app?
And I have met people through the app and through the Welcome app and a lot of locals. And that is also so. And it is like when you meet one person, it's like less pressure. So you can just go to one person and then talk to them. So, and I think it is, and for people who are not that outgoing, it's very a good way to meet people. And a lot of people who want to learn Dutch, for instance, they would like to have someone to talk to. So there are a lot of programs who provide one-on-one things. So that's a way to build a community and also feel like belonging to a place or being connected.
Is this app also available to other countries in Europe, for example?
It is available in Sweden and Norway.
Okay. So if people are watching and they're, they might check it out in their own country.
Yes, it is originated in Sweden and it's also in Norway and the Netherlands. Yeah.
Okay.
And it has also function of chatting, so people who don't want to meet people can also chat with people. So you can give information to people and tell them about the city, about the culture of the country. So it's an easier way and less pressure also.
But it could also be a platform for also not refugees, or could it also be, can also people moving to Sweden or moving to whatever their background, despite their background, use it as well?
So yeah, you have like the application is built on like a local newcomer. So if you're new to the Netherlands, you just apply as someone who's new, and then you have a local and a local community who have the app. So the interaction is between these two groups, and it's a way to connect and learn more about each other. And sometimes it's based also on interests and career and stuff like that.
And was it hard for you personally to connect with people here in Amsterdam or the Netherlands?
And I think connecting with people is also like having some kind of your own culture. So and if I see like places or shops in Amsterdam where stuff from Somalia is sold, that it also gives me a sense of belonging, a sense of community. So I think that's also important because Amsterdam is really diverse, and you can get a lot of different cultures, and also like food from different cultures. And that is also something, and without being with people, you can also feel at home still, and have that kind of part of your culture in your new home.
Nice. Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, that's funny. Everybody has their own, like, find their own ways to belong or feel connected to people. Of course, through equal culture, through creativity, through skills and talent, but also through like going out there and to talk to people. Something that really struck me as well, especially running this network and platform, even looking at like local events here, there's still a bit of like a thinking in silos kind of structure between there's expats and there's locals. And then there's also this tendency that a lot of people think that expats remain in their own bubble. Even if we host local events in English, its majority is international that attends our events, not so much even the locals. So at times there's also like very much like a language thing in between. I don't know if you experience it, but what do you personally think about being an expat versus no, I'm local? And when are you local then? How many years do you need to live somewhere to finally be a local? Or those kind of things. Is somebody in the group? I'm not going to point this one.
I will answer this because I feel like this is a question that a lot of people are asking, not to get too political, who have been in a country for generations and they still feel like, hey, this is my country. And a lot of people are making them feel like they're not local. So that's questions of identity are really interesting. I think the whole expat thing, we also have to acknowledge that, expat already connotes like a either middle or higher socioeconomic class, right? So when you're talking about people who are in a sort of lower socioeconomic class, a lot of times you say, oh, immigrants, right? So to me, it's already kind of interesting that people think in these terms, like immigrant versus expat, even though they're both foreign people in a different country. So I'm very conscious of that, I guess. And then I definitely feel it more as an expat in places where people might not be as welcoming to foreign people in their culture, or see them as just tourists who are there to just kind of spend money and then leave. I think a lot of people need to really see that commitment. Like, for example, Luca, I'm assuming that, it might take a while for somebody in Bucharest to accept that, hey, I'm here to stay, because maybe it's not a city that a lot of people are, accustomed to going. Whereas Amsterdam, every day there's somebody moving in. So the idea of an expat is a bit more regular. So I'm very conscious when I feel kind of like other, when I'm in a place and I feel like, well, I'm not feeling like a local, but even if I lived here for 5 years, perhaps I wouldn't feel like a local. So to me, that's an interesting feeling. It's not good or bad, but it's definitely makes me aware that, I need to be in a place where I can feel like a local as fast as possible. So I don't like feeling like an expat. It's important for me to try to be as much around locals, try to learn the language, as much as I can in a short amount of time. And then also kind of understand and respect people's local cultures and traditions. And I think for me, it's because I come from Cyprus. It's a very touristy country. I grew up seeing people who come to Cyprus, stay in all-inclusive hotels, go have fish and chips and beer, and then they don't really ever understand what Cyprus is about. They don't know anything about our culture, our food, our history, our language. And that's a bit sad when you just sort of don't really spend the extra time to get to know a place that you're visiting. And that's why I think expat kind of takes on a bit of a negative connotation for a lot of people, because they think of expats as people who are just living the same lifestyle anywhere they go, rather than adjusting their lifestyle to the specific culture and city. So,
yeah. And the thing is why I also, I'm happy that you answered in that way, because, I feel the same. Sometimes you just, if you being called out like an expat, it feels like you have some sort of, like disadvantage or something, or doesn't give you like a equal playing field to show that you can be local. I think it's also very If we would overcome that misconception, I think people, would even maybe more feel more belong to a particular city than they might do now.
Well, but you also have to understand, I think from a local's perspective, I think people need to see commitment to a place. I was told many times in Amsterdam, until people know that you're here to stay, they might not want to spend their time getting to know you, because for them, friendships and relationships are very important. So why would they waste their time on you? Versus somewhere in the United States where people, it's a bit more transient. So if you're somewhere for a week, you can still make best friends for that week. And then they're like, okay, I don't need to see you again. So I think it's a very cultural thing. And it's kind of like nice to know kind of like in advance how to be acting in a place where you move, if you really want to be part of the culture. I mean, I met a lot of expats in Amsterdam who are like, oh yeah, I don't have any Dutch friends, I don't speak Dutch. Well, okay. It's hard to blame local people for that when you also has to, you have to be making sort of an effort and an attempt as well. Like, Raquel was talking about meeting Dutch people through experiences and then feeling like a part of the place.
Yeah. No, but also I wonder, like, what's the ratio on looking at your local friends, that how many are native versus how many are like foreign, for example, Absolutely. Is that a measurement as well that shows whether, it mingles or not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. I just wanted to. So I don't like the term expat at all. I think it brings a lot of negativity, and I completely agree with what Stefan said about. So I think here in Amsterdam, what I feel is that one of the things that I get questioned when I meet Dutch people or Amsterdammers is that. So what do you think of Amsterdam? Do you like it? How long do you plan to stay? And if you answer like, oh, I really like it, I don't see myself going, then it's immediately a different approach, because people know that you are going to stay, so they can invest time on I don't want to say on you, but yes, on knowing you and spending time with you. And I think when you show that you are willing to learn the language of that specific country, I think that really people appreciate it, and they understand that if you're going to learn this a language, then probably you are thinking about staying for the long run, let's say it like that.
Yeah. And for you, Aisha, sorry, go ahead, Luca.
No, just quickly, like, I think in Bucharest, I would not consider the word expat being neither positive or negative, because I think it's a matter of why do you come to a country? And Bucharest, like Romania, is not an emerging country, but like fast-growing economy, which came from quite far economically speaking. And we can see that there are foreign people coming here who live, we have those like neighborhoods for foreign people willing to stay 2 or 3 years. And I think those people are definitely expat. Like they don't aim to integrate with locals. They just come here because the corporation asked them to do so. And they got all the benefits, and, they just come and leave. And then you have like the foreign people who come here and really want to integrate, So I think it's just that, some people decide to take the expat way. Some others try to take the I want to be a local way. But yeah, like being a local is also a hard definition for me, because as we talked earlier, like sometimes you really feel like a local because people know you, because people identify you to something. But then on the next day, you just take a cab and the taxi driver talks to you like it's your first day in the country. And it's like, oh, have you been there and there? It's like, it's like you go to Paris and they tell you, have you been to Disneyland? It's like, did you see the Eiffel Tower? It's like, yeah, it's been 4 years and a half. Like, yeah, I guess so, So you will never be truly associated as a local unless maybe you do politics and everyone knows you. But yeah, like I sometimes feel I'm a bit in between. But like,
it's interesting thinking that you look at from a different perspective as well. Yeah, because even here in Amsterdam, what's local? I mean, everybody's some sort of, from somewhere else, and is leaving again.
Romanians I know are from another city, and it's like, you also came here for work, and when you will retire, you'll probably go back to your hometown. So. Yeah.
Well, it's funny, in the US, it's actually very rare that I heard the term expat, Living in New York City, nobody's from New York City. I mean, they're from all over the world. So you might call people immigrants or foreigners, but nobody's an expat. So I wonder why in Europe people use it that much, or maybe other parts of the world. And I think Luca touched on that, is that idea that a lot of people move somewhere not because they want to, but because they were sent there for work. It's not a conscious kind of like immigration, whereas in the US, 90% of the time, it's people who really want to be there and they move there. So they don't think of it as being a temporary expat. They think of it as I'm moving there to have a new life. I never thought of myself as an expat in America. I went there to study, and then I ended up living there. Became a US citizen. So even though I'm not American, I never call myself an expat. But funny enough, now that I'm in Amsterdam, I'm an expat from day one. So. That's kind of the different in sort of how other people label you. And again, this idea of like, what is your identity to you, but also how do other people see you?
Yeah. So in New York, I would be a foreigner?
You would be, well, it depends. If you move there, you would be a New Yorker. I mean, it takes a day to be a New Yorker. It's all about attitude. But if you're visiting, you're a visitor. So I think it's very different. Of course, I'm speaking about New York or other big American cities. If you're in the Midwest, the South, that's a very different situation because, again, it's places that maybe don't see that many people from different cultures and countries, and they might view them in a different way. In New York, nobody would blink twice if you're from Mars. They're like, we probably have a few of you here. So that's an international kind of city and I think there's a few of them around the world that everyone kind of blends in. But, when I'm in Tokyo, I definitely feel that, visibly I'm different. And I think everyone can tell that as well. So I think it's also an interesting question for people who don't fit in physically or visibly. How do you feel that you belong, right? What is your identity and how do other people view you?
But it would be nice if we just get rid of a few terms and make it a lot easier, That the moment you register, you're in you're in Bucharesti or you're a New Yorker or you're in Amsterdam, and that's it. That's
We have also those discussions about like labeling people and when are you a local? And for instance, for immigrant, it's different. So you live here, so you have to invest in your new country. But also what we define or what we hear all the time, and definitely for me, is when you feel at home, you are kind of local. And I think it is also important to kind of invest in the country. So, and the others already said, like kind of take an interest in local norms, like the culture. What is this country about? Instead of like being isolated in your own world. So.
But Aisha, this is, I think, also a problem where, even in cities, but not in cities, also countries, there's more, division between groups as well, because we think in different boxes or silos.
True.
I think belonging is also about that we need to move closer to each other and be more cohesive as a society.
Exactly. So those labels are not that important. It's important you are kind of local when you feel at home, when you feel like you are in your country, for instance.
Yeah, so that's one answer to the question how to feel at home in your city. Take off the labels.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's vote.
We fixed it. We fixed
the problem.
It's done.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm happy. We just need one of these talks and world domination. It was a Cyprian, a Portuguese, French guy, a Somalian, and a Dutchie.
Well, there we go. We walked into a bar.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to comment on also, I love the fact that you picked the word belonging for this. In my work, I'm having a lot of conversations right now. In America, there's a lot of issues happening. I'm not even going to name all the issues that are happening, but one of the big ones is about sort of people who don't feel like, they're being respected and cultures that are sort of not feeling like they're part of society. So you have the Black Lives Matter movement that has taken over a lot of conversations. And so a lot of companies are coming to me and saying, well, we want to do some team building and we want to do diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they're using these like buzzwords, kind of like, oh, that's going to fix the problem. We're going to talk about diversity and inclusion. And to me, I just see those as just like, just buzzwords, what does that really mean, and versus the idea of belonging. So if you have the sense of belonging, it doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, where you come from, you feel like you belong and you're part of a group, whether this is a village or town or city, or whether it's your team at work, whether it's your family. And to me, it's such an important word and communicates so much more humanity than talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, because that's always talking about people over there, those people, not talking about ourselves, right? So diversity is about everyone else except us, whereas belonging, we're part of it as well. So we have to be self-aware about our behavior, our attitude, and how we affect others, not how diversity affects us, which is kind of like what the conversation in America ends up being about. So I love the fact that belonging is something that we're talking about, of course, from a different perspective, but, at the root of it is like, how do we feel at home? How do we be ourselves anywhere in the world?
Right? Also, like, how do we want to be treated and how do we want to treat others,
Absolutely.
I think it's an old saying is that please treat others as you would like to be treated. And I think that's, even going to new places, I think that's just something that, you all, I think, are proven examples that you do, so you're model citizens. We're gonna almost heading towards the end of the talk, but before we go, is you feel like you found your place, or you feel like going somewhere else? Have you found your people? What's
it depends on the weather.
Okay.
Sometimes I wake up, I'm like, I'm gonna spend my life here. Sometimes I wake up, I need to leave tomorrow. It really depends.
Okay.
But that's also why you belong, because as I said at the beginning, when someone tells you start thinking like a Romanian, it also means complaining a lot. And I think I tend to complain more than I did before. So
come to the Netherlands, my friends. Come to the Netherlands.
Does everyone complain all the time?
Yeah, all the time.
I in all the places that I've lived, I think complaining is part of the human people and not really nationality oriented.
No, absolutely. I think once you start complaining, you're a local, right? When you feel like you can complain about things in your city, you feel like a local, because then you're like, wait, I'm part of this. I should be able to complain, right? And I think that's when you know, like, okay, yeah.
So, Stefan, the moment you start complaining, you go to a new place?
I've been complaining since I was born. So I think for me, it's part of my culture, But it's funny, like Amsterdam for me was supposed to be another stop in the last 3 years of nomading. But my husband and I just signed a year lease and moved into our place 2 days ago. And so it's like, what does that mean? Maybe it is the place where I'm going to be for a while. But it's funny because this gives us more stability and more of a sense of belonging. But at the same time, it's a bit terrifying because what does that mean for me, having been a nomad for 3 years and sold everything I own except a suitcase of clothes? And now I'm choosing a city out of every place in the world to call home, right? So I think it's funny, like when you start thinking about home and then we attach so many values to it, then it's actually really stressful to be like, have I made the right decision? And that's why I understand, Luca's conundrum every morning, is there a better place than this? Should I be going to that place? But, after 3 years of going to so many places around the world, I realize there's no perfect place, there's no utopia. You just have to, I wish I could take elements from each place I've lived and put them all together, but that doesn't exist, right? So
I was thinking of that, like, hey, if you take all these people that are your people from different cities and you put them in a new city, you might have a perfect city, That
would be amazing. And then build that city from scratch. It's like SimCity,
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it also depends on which stage you are in your life. Like, for example, for me, living in Hamburg, beginning of my 20s was amazing. It's a very progressive city. You do whatever you want. No one cares. I was between 20 and 25 there. I had fun. However, I'm not sure I would be able to live there today. and I'm sure I will even less be able to live there in 20 years from now. So, like right now, Bucharest fits with what I look for, what I like, but I really can't tell you what I will be looking for in 20 years that will make me choose the perfect city.
Yeah. Interesting. And Aisha, what about you?
Yeah, I am from a nomadic culture, so who knows? I might be exploring soon.
Where would you go next? Like to go next?
Well, I don't know. I visited a lot of cities in Europe, but I still don't know. Hopefully, maybe in the future, and go explore another city.
Okay, great. Well, same for me is that, I've been living, I grew up in Munich in Germany for 15 years. And then I came back to the Netherlands. I'm now 15 years in Amsterdam and yeah, looking into, spreading my wings again as well. So, yeah, these tips are very, very, very helpful. And
we can make this call in 10 years and see where each of us is located.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That's a very good idea.
It's going to be the sequel to this.
That would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, and Raquel. So yeah, sure.
No, just really quick, just something I remember that might be a good tip for everyone. There's a thing called Lunch Club. I don't know if people are familiar with it. So basically you sign up and you tell it what your interests are and what you do for work, this and that, where you're based. And then there's a AI that connects you with other people around the world or in your specific city. And then you have 45-minute conversations with these people. Let me just tell you, the last 5.5 months, I was stuck in Cyprus during lockdown. I met like 57, 58 people around the world. And I put Amsterdam as my base because I knew I was coming here. And since I've been here, I've met 22 people in real life as well who I had met on Lunch Club. So if you're moving somewhere or already in a city that you live and there's a Lunch Club chapter there, it's free. It's such an amazing way to meet people because you're kind of forced to have this 45-minute conversation, and it works for introverts as well, Raquel. So and Aisha, so you guys can do that as well because then you're one-on-one. It's not like going to a networking event or a conference when you're like, hey, we're going to talk for a few minutes and then I'm going to get coffee. You literally have to find things to talk about. And let me just tell you, you can talk for like hours because there's such interesting people. So that's something that I wish existed before, but it was super special during the lockdown because you kind of didn't have anything else to do.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yes, yeah.
During lockdown, I actually there is this, and I'm sorry for the boys. This is a Gone Girl International, and it exists in several cities, and is just for girls, but. I entered in that, and we had virtual quizzes, and we had other events online. So that made a lot of company during the lockdown. Yeah. So I think in those moments, that's when you realize that you need to make these connections. And nowadays there is so many platforms to connect with people that you just have to reach out. Basically,
yeah, great.
Make that first step.
Yeah, I just shared the Lunch Club link as well in the comments, so everybody can check it out. If you have any other links you'd like to share, please let me know, and I can just add them here to the main comments. So that was already one terrific advice from Stefan and Raquel. Any other tips, Aisha and Luca, maybe?
Just travel, go take an Airbnb for 2 weeks, go to a co-working space. Don't overthink, don't try, don't force it, just let it go. And I think that's how things will come naturally. I always felt like when I was looking for something, I didn't get what I wanted, well, if I just let it go and was just open about it, I got the best out of it. So try as much as you can, travel, discover, ask questions. If you travel, try to be like a local, find a couch surfer, take an Airbnb that you can share the local place, spend some days working there, not only visiting, because in many cities, the old town is not necessarily where locals go. So try to go, in the countryside, in the outskirts of a city, go to the bad areas, go to the places where tourists don't go, talk to people there, and I think you will have very quickly a nice overview of the city you might live in. You know, like if you go to London and stay in the city, you will never afford to pay for a studio there, so you will never live there. So visiting London and going to the city doesn't mean that it's the right place for you. Go to zone 4 or 5, take the metro for 1 hour, stop randomly somewhere, walk around, and I think that's where you can have a proper opinion, at least fast, quick check on how the city looks like and how you might experience it.
Nice. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I think I agree with Luca. Like the local experience is the best. So
Yeah, I think it's the same. You have to visit. If you don't feel at home where you are right now, I think you have to visit and find and visit the cities as a local person. So it's great. When I visit Paris the first time, I visited as a tourist, and then after that I went to Paris for different occasions. And Paris as a local, it's literally you are in an apartment somewhere in a neighborhood, and you go to a bakery and you meet the local people, you have a cafe, you experience all of this like a local Parisian. And this is just for Paris, but for any other city that you're visiting, try to see how the locals live and how they interact, and that sense of belonging will somehow come to you if this is where you see yourself living.
Yeah, and ask locals questions. You know, people love recommending things. People love when you show interest in their culture and their city and their food. You know, I mean, maybe I'm a little too much, but I'll ask every waiter at every restaurant I go, "What's your favorite thing on this menu?" And it's amazing that, you know, just a simple question like that gets people start talking about their food and their restaurant and the city. I end up leaving restaurants with like tips for places to visit, other people to meet. Just because I asked a simple question, or you know, ask the coffee guy. You know, Luca would know this. You know, you just sit at the coffee shop and you talk to the barista, and they are full of knowledge. They'll give you so many tips, and I find that people love questions. You know, even in places when you don't expect. Like, you know, I was in Indonesia, and they're so used to just tourist us. But when you start engaging with people and asking them questions and showing that, hey, I'm interested in your culture beyond what I see in the brochure, people just light up, and it's such a beautiful experience to actually do things that a local recommended, and then you end up being the only non-local person there. I mean, that's just, I don't know, there's something magical about that. And be like, hey, I'm the only foreigner here, and I love it. Because a lot of us don't have that experience of feeling like other. You know, we're always kind of part of our group, part of our tribe. Maybe not the 5 of us, because we've been traveling and living in other countries, but most countries, people are part of their community and they look like everyone else around them. So it's kind of exciting to experience being other. Yeah. And also then we can understand how people feel when they're other in our societies and our culture as well.
Yeah. So I think for me, it's like what we were discussing. So experience it as a local, ask questions to local people, and observe. Just by observing how people behave, how people live, you will know if this is the way that you would like to live in that city, or and engaging how locals receive you, how they Stefan mentioned in Indonesia. When I was there also, it was impressive. If you show interest, people they start talking. You ask one question and you just absorb everything, and you will know. Yeah.
Beautiful. Great, guys. I think this is a great last statement, actually, to close off this last question, because I think we could talk for hours. But I think one day, hopefully, we can all meet in one place. Probably where Stefan's at.
In that city I'm going to build for all my favorite people. So you guys are welcome. You know, bring a dish, bring your favorite dish.
Yeah, great. Sorry, Aisha, we don't need a welcome app for that city, but for any other cities, we should.
I will bring pastéis de nata for you.
Sorry, Raquel?
I will bring pastéis de nata for
oh my God, I am obsessed with pastéis de nata. And I mean, yeah, and that and vinho verde. Oh.
We got good coffee, pastéis de nata, and all other good traits. So gonna be hell of fun. So I'm gonna individually gonna thank you. I want to say thank you, Luca, for your time. I'm gonna kick you out in a second. You can stay up and we can chat after this live stream.
All right. Thanks, Robin, for the invite.
Absolutely, de rien. Raquel, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for inviting me. This was
Aisha
great.
and Stefan, thank you so much for all your wonderful experiences.
It's been a pleasure, and it was wonderful to meet all of you guys.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you for having us.
And I want that backdrop. We'll be in touch.
Yes.
All right, there you go, one by one, and you all end up, 1 second, with me. It's like we've never had so many people on one talk, and now you're all down to me. Don't run away yet, because I need 1 or 2 more minutes before you go. I'm really overwhelmed by this amazing, insightful talk that we just had around belonging. It's something that I've been cherishing a lot. It's also something that I've built a City Made by People on as one of the main values, is to really show the people that create the city they live in. So, we make cities more human, so we can also connect better to a city that we live in or visit, and then, know more on what's happening in that city. So, super grateful. Before we leave, I really would love to make a few more announcements, being 1 second, there you go, is that as of next month, we'll have another City Talks, and the theme will be about support your locals. Will be held on the 22nd of October, and it will be part of our grand scheme of launching something new and exciting. And for those people that have tuned in too late, we're gonna announce and launch something new in the coming weeks. If you don't want to miss out on it and be the first to know, please join this waiting list. You can visit acitymadebypeople.com/experience. I'll again drop it in the comment box. So you can click on it, just fill in your details, and you're ready to go. And you'll hear from us very, very soon. And I just had a blast. I hope you had a blast as well. I really thought our speakers were amazing. And we hope to see you again next month. A new theme, support your locals, super relevant in these crazy times. So be inspired about how we can help support our local businesses and our cities. We make sure to have another great lineup of initiatives and projects of different cities around the world to join us. Stay tuned on your inbox. So sign up, click on the link, fill in, and be notified ASAP. For now, it's been a lot longer than 45 minutes, but we had a blast. So I want to thank you, everyone that's been watching. I'm Robin, here in Amsterdam, and I'm going to tune out now and wish you a wonderful evening. All right, bye-bye. Cheers.